Hello, everybody, and a very warm welcome to this very special episode of Transformation Talks, filmed in conjunction with our CIO Exchange coming up in London in a few weeks' time. I'm here with Jessie Qin, who is Chief Data Officer for EY Consulting and also go-to-market for AI for EY. So quite busy, Jessie. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much, Ben, for inviting me. I'm very looking forward to the next 30 minutes with the podcast, but also very looking forward to the CIO Exchange program and seeing you and your team and also a lot of CIOs and CIOs.
So us too. So thank you very much for saying that. Mm-hmm. We'll get into it pretty quickly, but I think a core theme just to introduce, which you're going to return to in the subject of this episode, is really reinvention, reimagining, right? We want to talk about AI as a technology in the context of taking the opportunity to rebuild the organization with a bolder vision and a different mindset, which is an expression I think you're going to use quite a lot through this interview. So that piece around reinvention is really important, right? And also, I think we're going to talk quite a lot. Obviously, Transformation Talks is primarily aimed at the transformation leader, although we're going to talk about a CIO as a transformation leader as we go through the episode, but also that convergence between the technology mandate and the role of transformation is important, which is why we've asked you to appear on this podcast, even though you've got that role in the CIO Exchange as the lead sponsor there. So with your permission, we will get into it.
Exactly. And you'll hear a lot. I'm talking about reimagine, talk about, how we actually really pivot from AI building to AI building. We talk about a lot of the balance between the toolset, the skill set, the mindset, and we'll talk about how CIO can be the bridge that really drive the value creation.
Okay, nice. We've set a clear structure, which is important. So before we get into much more detail, why don't you talk to us a little about your view of the CIO, how that role has changed, because that should be a good springboard to talk about the CIO and that convergence with transformation.
Yeah, that's great. I have a lot of CIO friends, and I think their role has actually changed in the past because, in essence, CIO really need to understand in the market trend and what actually the latest technology is bringing and building that new capabilities for the organization for the future. And of course, CIO also responsible for deliver all those new capability efficiently and with actual productivity and with that resilience. But I will say in the past couple of years, typically when actually AI comes, CIO play actually much important role in terms of actually changing the culture and bring the transformation into the table and the drive value. Yeah. And what I meant by culture changes, right? And we discussed a lot of AI digital investment, trillions of dollars in the market. It is still actually disappointing with so much investment. We do not see the value, and primarily because today in the market, most of the AI investment is very much focused on the toolset, the hardware, the infrastructures, the GPUs, the cloud. Lots of that investment, but little investment into bring people's skill set and the very little investment into changing the mindset. So in our view, CIO play crucial role to pivot that triangle and changing the AI digital transformation from really mindset, then skill set, then tool set.
Okay, so that I know because you said so before we started, that the topic of mindset is really important. So just in your own words, explain what you think that mindset needs to be in order for this AI transformation to be successful, and perhaps specifically how the CIO can support that mindset shift.
That's really important. I see positive movement in this area. Maybe 12 and 18 months ago in the AI world, digital world, a lot of discussion is about cutting the cost, save a couple of hours here and there. Yeah. Pivoting of the mindset change is actually growth and innovations. It's not doing current things differently and having technology and AI do different things. And that is the mindset change. And that mindset change needs to be there, grassroots from everybody in the organization, but very importantly, from CEO and also the C-level. So that for us is the mindset change.
Yep. And should we just acknowledge what I think is a little bit of an elephant in the room, because we talked to lots of senior leaders in different functions, not just CIOs.
Yeah.
And obviously, IT is a natural home for technology.
Yeah.
But there are an awful lot of leaders who are vying for a piece of agentic as a rollout, and for control of that, there's lots of different business cases for why GBS is the best home for agentic, or the chief technology officer or the CFO has some projects, and there's lots of people vying for control because of the potential impact on the business. So what's your advice to those leaders that you work with about how to manage those politics and to make the best case for the business rather than getting drawn into those different kind of functional silos?
I think I always said to people, AI is a team game. It is not individual. Of course, the CIO and the CIO organization bring a lot of latest and outside input, but it has to be a team game across functions and across the organization. We see lots of use case type of conversations, and the use cases sitting in a single function.
Yep.
That is very disappointing, that the outcome of those development, because at the very best, you drive productivity at 10-15%, and that you give a couple of hours back to employees on a weekly basis.
Yep.
But I call that robotics 2.0. That's very disappointing. Instead, I think CIO's organization, what they can really drive is the value conversation. Now, I think drive productivity cost cutting is already challenging, but really bring that innovation and reimagine, it's even more difficult. That's why I keep promoting the concept of not to do AI bolt on, do AI built in. That the essence of the AI built in is reimagine your value chain, order to cash, procure to pay, R to R, plan to deliver, everything, or can actually reimagine a function. For example, your R&D, for example, your shared service center. But when you do that, keep in mind not to use AI to do what you do today, and to challenge that and not limit yourself of today's assets processes, but truly understand the essence of what AI can do, and then reimagine the process, reimagine function. When you do that, you start to see, you build a future agentic organization. That means human confidently work with agents to do different things, and instead of actually do things differently with a bit of productivity.
Okay, so because that's one of the core themes of, well, really is the core theme of this episode, right? Is reimagining the way that we work rather than just applying the technology because of the pressure and the hype to existing structures. Now, arguably, the existing structure of large organizations makes it quite difficult to do that. Reinvention is something that's talked about a lot, but it's very difficult to actually do. That would be the classic criticism, right? So before we go on, because there's so many themes, decentralization, centralization, agility versus security, all of these types of themes, governance, there's loads we could talk about. But we probably need to have a little bit of a vision for what, if we started again with a blank sheet of paper, and I asked your colleague and friend Reto this question when I interviewed him on site, if we started with a blank sheet of paper, how would we think differently about the structure of that future organization and what it should look like to support this mindset that you're talking about? You know, is there a space to be completely functionally agnostic and to organize in a different way? How would you do it if you were starting from ground zero?
I would say there's no simple answer to organizations, right? Because you could actually run organization, government, non-commercial. You can. I know that in the exchange program, the CIOs actually from, companies are very actually country-centric, but also CIOs actually need to run the organization globally in different locations. And when you go to different countries, the speed of AI adoption is quite different. And we just actually recently did a point of view and look into different industry, different countries, the speed of the real AI adoptions is quite different. So I would actually say there's no single answer. However, what I will advise every of my CIO is not to run that governance with IT-centric. Okay. The governance itself needs to have a mix of different voices. The CIO organization, of course, is very important. Yep. The division is very important. The function is very important. The country is also very important. So the collective edge organization is very important. That's first. Yep. And secondly, leave that AI digital conversation into a transformation. Really connect that strategy into the strategic intent of the company in the next 3 years or next 5 years, and look into what are the really competitive capabilities that you want to drive, and what are the problems that you try to solve, and where you really want to drive the productivity, and having that strategic conversations. In truth, I probably will introduce another concept, and I have not actually introduced to that. AI has very different future, and none of us can predict. It could actually have a future that really drive the growth and transformation. It could actually have a future of a collapse. I call it collapse. It's not AI technology itself collapse, but it is might be in a certain industry only few organization get it.
Yeah,
they become actually really dominant. Yeah, and the rest sadly will disappear. Or it could actually have a constrained culture. That means the regulators really having an issue of actually non-responsible usage of AI. So what I meant is you need to actually build a governance that really focus on the company's strategic intent in the next 3 to 5 years. Yep. And build a governance that not only technology-driven, but actually with all the businesses. And you build that strength that you can actually deal with different outcome of the AI future, not a single one.
So in terms of promoting that agility, that links us into something else, because you talked about governance. And so we're still thinking about that future organization. Yeah. And part of the structural debate is around the level of centralization versus decentralization. Two, I guess, drivers behind that. Yeah. One is that the speed of change and the need to keep up requires decentralization, because not everything can be governed from top down. There simply isn't time. Yeah. But there's also the fact that this technology has quite a democratizing effect, I guess. It makes more people agents for change within organizations. So where do you sit in terms of thinking about the level of decentralization within the organization, how AI can support that, what the opportunities and maybe the threats are?
Okay. There are a lot of conversations in the market, for sure. But if you look into the future of agentic enterprise, that actually have multiple layers when we talk about. They all interconnected. One is your layer of customer and consumer experiences, right? How you actually develop very different impact to customer and consumer experiences. Yep. And then you have a layer of future workforce, how you transform the future workforce and how their future look like. What are the skill set that you need for the company? What are the skill sets will not need it in the future? That's the second layer. The third layer will be how you reimagine the future ways of working, the process, the functions and everything, right? The fourth layer is the intelligence layer, how you build information, data and the knowledge connected so that all your agent system can actually really understand the intelligence of your company inside out and outside in. Then you have a layer of trusted AI. That means the cybersecurities, the AI, responsible usage of the AIs. And also, do you understand in different countries, what are the regulations, the compliance and everything, right? That's another layer of what I refer to. Then you have another layer, what's also very important. Do you understand your target platform, AI native target platform, and how you actually transform your current landscape into the target AI foundation? And the last but not least, everything you do have to be connected with, in the CIO world, the system of record, your truths, the data truths, how you connect to that. Now, if you look into all those layers, I would say you can be actually quite innovative in terms of really looking into how you reinvent the ways of working.
Yeah.
The divisions need to actually take their responsibility. The function can take their responsibility, and also the process owner can take responsibility and really reimagine the future ways of working. Well, you need to actually build a central capability, and also the insight is your view of the target architecture, how to look like,
Yep.
and how you actually build a connected knowledge platform. Architecturally, how you do that, information, data, semantic layer, and the knowledge. You need to actually have that vision. How you put the guardians when you actually build the knowledge and also data platform. Of course, the divisions, the functions, they will actually drive different data products, different ontology of actually knowledge. However, the guardians, how you look into data privacies, the CIC clause, how you use actually customer consumer data. So the policies of that needs to be actually quite central, because you cannot actually let all the countries to actually decide what is right for that. And then somewhat in many of my clients, the chief talent officer is very into the whole program, because the thinking of the program, how you design the future of the organization, the skill set that you need, have that strategic thinking of the future of your workforce. However, then decentralize the deployment of that.
Yep.
If you know what I mean, right? Because the functions, the process, the countries then need to take that vision and start to develop in their own actual way the future of the workforce. So it's kind of team working, building a lot of guardrail and future targets, and in the central, and give the different part of organization the freedom to deploy that, but also give them the tools and also the vision to innovate.
Okay,
Is that a long answer?
It is, but that's okay. It was a good answer.
Yeah.
So to summarize, a strong centralized framework that enables decentralized trust, so you can then trust the organization to go regionally, country, functionally, wherever to do that. And I guess the reason the CIO has such a seat at the table on this is you started to talk about data. Now you are a chief data officer yourself.
Yes.
So I do just want to touch on the data piece behind all of this, because you mentioned single source of truth. When I spoke to Reto, he was talking about the idea of, I think he called it a meaner, cleaner data core, which AI will help you to sort of tidy up. Now, when it comes to data core, there's two schools of thought that I want to touch on. And the two polar extremes that I've heard is that one end you must have clean, perfect data to begin with, otherwise what the output from the AI won't be what you want. And then there's the other end of the spectrum, which is no, move fast, be iterative, apply the AI, and over time you'll clean up and tidy up that data set. Don't worry about it as much. You are a chief data officer yourself, in addition to the work that you do with your clients. Where do you sit on that spectrum? What's your thinking around that data core and what it's going to look like? Again, thinking about this future organization that you're just drawing from scratch.
So maybe let's talk about data as a definition to start with.
Okay.
Because I think in the future agentic enterprise, we talk data of your structured data, your unstructured data, and multimodal data. Everybody gets it. But I think more important is also data plus the knowledge, because I come from an organization have more than 100 years history and operate in more than 180 countries. The amount of the knowledge that we have actually had in our organization is huge, and how you create that knowledge. So when we talk about data, it's always the data, the knowledge together. Personally, I don't think that you ever will have a clean data, and that you ever will have the knowledge that you want to create. And my view is always, I call it AI for data and AI ready data. AI for data really help organization to speed up the entire building up of the clean data. So there are a lot of tools in the organization outside in the market that using AI to really actually do data profiling, data transformations, and the data actually consolidation, everything. I've seen large bank, it's in a regulated environment, use solution called AI for data that really shorten their data projects and in a very effective way.
Yep.
So there are a lot of tools there can actually help CIOs and organization have a much better way of run those type of programs. That's on one hand.
Yep.
Then it's the AI ready data is actually think much more broad. It's not only actually for the structured data. It's not only your ERP data. It is actually the much broader definition of data in your ERP, clean core, outside of ERP, and then the knowledge that organization has, and then the external data that you can acquire. Now, that is a journey. My own organization, we took the first 5 years journey. Now we're in the second, 5 years journey. So it takes time. But I wouldn't actually wait to be perfect to do AI. I would just actually do side by side. It's almost like a push and a pull. You want to actually transform the ways of doing. You create the future of GBS, for example, and future of GBS, how things can be done differently and do the new things. For example, I see GBS organization not only actually drive the efficiencies of the back office and the front office, they actually tap into merger acquisition type of activities, help organization get themselves day one ready, right? Now, when you go to that transformation, you start to understand to support the future of the working with human, the GBS organization, with the agents when they work together, what sets of data and also knowledges that you will need. So human and also agent can actually use the common sets of data, common sets of knowledge. You learn that, and then you start to actually leverage that learning to the other side of different divisions of the organization. And then even for GBS, right, you probably will not do overnight. You probably say, okay, I get the vision. I know broadly how future and AI and the agent will work and their work. You probably start with a small set of the work that GBS needs to do. With the learning, you start to actually build the strength of your data and understand what does that really mean for the organization.
So obviously our GBS portfolio too, and we're not here to talk about that. So I'm not going to talk about it, but I can't miss the opportunity since you brought up GBS. When it comes to GBS organizations, by the sounds of it, from what you've just said in that last answer, agentic is quite a good opportunity for them as well. And there's a reason for them to be optimistic, and that's because they themselves are huge repositories for customer and internal data, presumably.
And the knowledge.
And the knowledge. Yeah.
The knowledge, right? So
that distinction between knowledge and data is quite important for you.
It's important. And because organizations often undermine the importance of the knowledge. And what I always say is there are commercial agents in the market. And there are agents that organization build yourself. And what makes the real difference is, first of all, culturally, how you get an organization that people confidently work with agent will make live, for organization to be different. And the knowledge that the individual organization is able to actually create and able to acquire. That actually makes a huge difference of actually how intelligent that your agent will work. The model is the model, and the most of our organization will not actually invent, the language model, right? We're the consumption of the language models, right? And we're the consumers. GBS is a huge organization. I'm saying that it's not because they can actually further increase the cost cutting, not there. But I think the GBS can be an organization working together with a CIO organization, do different things instead of actually do things actually just in today's process and do it faster.
Yeah, so that's a good opportunity because I wanted to put it back to value and growth, which you were talking about right at the beginning, right? And we said we'd come back to that. So we've got a broad sketch now, if you like, of what Jessie's future organization would look like if you started from scratch. We talked about the role of data within it, how you have that strong governance framework to enable the decentralization. We talked about the mindset shift for individuals working within that organization and how you enable that. So we've sort of talked about that structure. I want to, as a way into talking about growth and value delivery, there's that convergence that we talked about in the pre-game between transformation and the role of the CIO. The concept of continuous, always-on transformation is a very popular one at the moment. Just talk to me a little bit about how you see that coming into play here, because it does bring complexity as well as opportunity, because it implies that there isn't a linear journey through transformation from start to end, which creates complexity, alignment around North Star vision, setting metrics for value delivery. All of that stuff is more complicated in a world where you're continuously transforming. So how do we get at that to ensure we get the best out of always on without making things so complex that you don't derive that value?
Yeah.
That's a very difficult question.
That's a very difficult question. There are people saying that don't treat projects, but more product, have a more product mindset versus project mindset. They also always talk about focus on value released instead of output of a project. For me, the continuous transformation comes through from a mindset, because I think we're living in a very uncertain world, and the CIO and CIO organizations need to deal with a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of changes perhaps is forced into an organization. So itself, it's already a lot of challenge for the CIO organization. That's one force, uncertainty of the world, and therefore create force change to the organization. That's one. Second is, when you look into the technology, I hope our podcast will be released in the next several weeks, because in 3 months' time, when we sit here for another half hour, perhaps things already changed. It's the speed of the technology change. And then, of course, there's geopolitical situation that we deal with that also force a lot of changes. So therefore, I think because of those three elements, it's very challenging for CIO to actually really predict a 5 years project, how it look like. Instead, have that strategic intent laid down, have the governance broadly agreed, and have the value case built broadly, and then start to run continuous transformation, and then really focus on the return of investment in a much shorter, like quarterly and the half year and the yearly. I did that with one of my own client, right? And in terms of, it's very interesting. We will create a value case, right? We look into 75 AI solutions. But strategically, when we nail down, we also help the organization, by the way, build the AI council with the connectivity with business IT. And when we put all these people together, only 5 AI solutions will create 80% of the value. That's interesting, right? And this is a collective agreement with the council members. And then now the organization pick one of them, says, okay, that's the biggest value lever. Let's do that. And let's not actually do everything, and then create another 3 years, 4 years, projects. Let's actually pick one of the AI solutions, because that actually create most of the value. Organization know it's also ready, because equally there's another AI solution can actually drive almost equal of the value, but we're not actually clear whether the organization is ready. So we'll also pick a subset of that organization already, we actually just go to do it. So it's going to be an iterative, actually 3 to 4 years journey, not a project.
That down selection example that you're giving is interesting, right? Because one of the themes that sit behind every conversation that I have on this podcast is around technology, but not for technology's sake, right? And applying it to the right thing. And by the sounds of it, because the question I was going to ask you, which I almost don't need to ask you now, is what does sustainable growth for the business look like? And it seems to be, tell me if this is wrong, but I would anticipate your answer would be along the lines of, well, it's a very careful selection of which technology you apply and where in order to deliver maximum value. And then being very focused on driving that value rather than applying technology. So I guess for the actual application of technology, that you are advocating a fairly centralized approach, but then a decentralized rollout, that approach, again, like you said before, with the governance framework in place.
I think you need to, for organization at large, and if you really bet AI future, remember that I talk about the full future of AI. If you really actually believe certain part of the future is growth and the transformation, the choice of technology is very important. I'll give you one example. All pharma companies invest a lot on AI, and in the essence of their business R&D. Now the choice of technology partner become important in that context, because you want to co-innovate and co-develop. So that you cannot just casually, switch that part. So that's very important. So for me, the relationship of those technology providers become important for the areas that you believe that organization will actually make you competitive, that the area that the capability is really important, and that's how you compete, and that's how you grow, and that's actually how you transform. That actually is important.
And a conclusion you might draw from that, I suppose, because as I've said, this is a podcast that's aimed firstly at transformation leaders. CIOs, of course, can be transformational CIOs. I think that speaks to the importance of potentially the relationship between the two, right? Because when you talk to transformation leaders, historically they have the business context because that's their bread and butter, and maybe not the technology knowledge, depending on their background. The CIO, probably the opposite. So again, I'm thinking of Reto's interview, but one of the things he talked about was promoting business context knowledge amongst CIOs. So I guess that's important to you when you're advising your CIO client as well.
And I know a lot of CIO and Chief Transformation Officer. Interestingly, some of the Chief Transformation Officer has a CIO background, or some of the CIO has transformation background, for example. So I said it started actually being really interesting. I think CIO, for at least 5 or 6 years or even 10 years, I don't think CIO think themselves as technology manager anymore, right? And that they all like being the partner of the business and bring the best technology, understand the best actual capability the organization needs to build, and being the bridge of that future of technology, future of capability, and how to build that. Being the bridge of understand the strategic intent of the organization and deliver that value. So the CIO is really in center of this whole transformation. And I often tell people, CIOs or actually technology players, I said, listen, building an AI agent will become commodity. If you think about the agentic enterprise, if you think through the layers I'm talking about, it is customer consumer experience. It's about actually future of skill. It is about the trust AI. It's about to build intelligence layer with the knowledge. It's about actually have the vision of the architecture, right? So that actually is the CIO's contribution on that. And it is about making the business understand how they can actually reimagine the business instead of actually do the AI build on. So agent builder, building the agents and building the use cases is a commodity. The transformation is actually really important. That actually will create the distance between the organization really actually treat AI transformation with a whole organization topic versus organizations busy attributing AI use cases and agents.
That's a really nice takeaway. I think you use the expression "be the bridge," so the CIO can be the bridge between that technology and the business, and therefore can promote the reinvention that you're talking about. We have, as always, run out of time, but just before we finish, I'd just like to give you just a brief minute to talk about the partnership with the CIO Exchange, why you decided that the lead sponsorship of that event was the right decision for your business, and what you see the value of that event that we're working on together being in just, a few weeks' time.
Yeah, we see a huge opportunities that in the future of transformation. And we have many CIOs that we work with. And as a company, EY would believe if for the transformation, I keep talking about the 7 layers of agentic enterprise for the future. It is about technology. You need to understand the future of AI. But more importantly, our vision for agentic enterprise is human. And the human then can confidently work with AI in a trust environment with knowledge. But if you think about that 3 or 4 sentence, that's really what EY's ambition. And we said, we want to be a partner with CIOs that can bring that transformation with confidence. The confidence comes from the trust, come from the people. And that's where EY actually really stands for. So I think we can contribute into the journey of the next 5 to 10 years to come.
Yeah. So we agree. So human-centric, trust-based, agentic transformation of business. Jessie, I've really enjoyed that. Time has flown. Thank you so much for making the time to have this conversation. This may be released post-event, but we'll see you again in a couple of weeks. But an ideal scene setter, a really great discussion about reinvention and not just applying technology to what we do now, but starting all over again. So ambitious, maybe a little scary, but worth doing if we're going to avoid the negative futures, which were one of the options that you talked about. So Jessie, thank you very much. And to everybody watching and listening, thank you and bye-bye.